masculinity is re-evolving. And I believe this because revolution is re-evolution. Evolution for me involves the evolution of form and biology, but it's also the evolution of concepts, ideas, and the evolution really of energy and information. I've learned so much since creating that first video, Masculinity is Dead, and it has sparked a self-journey of inquiry for me to understand myself and understand the world out there, and specifically men or those holding masculine energy. And what I've been realizing, especially seeing some of the backlash, is that the masculine energy, the yang principle, the structured, ordered, logical principle is undergoing a re-evolution. It's evolving right now. And this, I think, is because the femininity of the world is already at a very high level and is kind of peaking in the world right now. The female liberation movement and kind of some of the feminism movements that we're all familiar with was one thrust of that. But where was that movement for men? It never happened. Concepts around masculinity are just now coming to the forefront. In the conscious community, in the coaching community, in the personal development community, I believe we're having new conversations about what it means to be a man and what it means to be a masculine force in the world. For me, what it doesn't look like is emotionally armoring myself and defending myself from reality and from feelings because I need to get shit done. That was a great strategy at one point, and those of you living in parts of the world where you have to chop wood and carry water every day and defend your family from physical violence, I understand that. I think a lot of the men on these videos in the comment section think I'm being like literal. And like I almost felt like I was reading someone's response to like a Bible verse and like biblical literalism or some kind of concept like that. And at first I kind of chuckled at it, and then I realized, wow, this is profound. When I'm talking about de-armoring and evolving the masculine principle in myself and out there with the men in the world, I'm not talking about just scrapping everything about being a man. I don't want to toss the baby out with the bathwater. I don't want to toss the warrior out with the army. What I see is the masculine principle is rising to catch up with the feminine, who's already extremely intuitive and aware of their psychological and emotional realms. And the masculine principle for me has been dominating the physical realm with science and technology. And it has created a world of abundance. It has created a world where peace reigns. This is the most peaceful time in existence. Don't believe CNN, as Peter Diamandis says, the crisis news network. Don't buy the garbage that's being sold in the world. This is the most peaceful time period per capita statistically ever in human history since we've been measuring it. You're less likely to die a violent death if you're alive today than any of your ancestors. And I understand that there's still violence in the world and there's still darkness. That's why I will continue to shine my light. And I'll continue to encourage men specifically to stand in your power. It's time to rise up and re-evolve. Like, evolution is an ongoing process. We've come a long way. We've come a long way since being cavemen and dragging women by their hair to our cave. We've come a long way since coating ourselves in metal armor and slicing each other apart on battlefields. And now we're coming a long way from firing lead bullets at each other over tribal primate politics. I wanted to share a thought I had earlier. I was doing some Wim Hof pranayama at the beach this morning, and something dropped in that I'd read. Two things, actually. One was Terence McKenna, rest in power, one of my mentors and a sage, I believe. Terence McKenna remarked in his book, The Food of the Gods, that the hippie movement, especially among men, challenged so many paradigms in the mainstream. For example, men growing their hair out was a radical thing. In the 60s and 70s, I don't know if you've seen pictures, there's literally like conservative families or whatever you want to label them with pickets, like they have signs and pickets saying, get these hippies out of our town, segregate our schools, say no to long hair. Like, and when you really zoom out, and Terrence was drawing attention to this, the old school masculine ego or male ego that's very like appearance and like clean cut and heavily muscularized, both physically and emotionally, is so challenged. Like this image of like force and power is challenged by a man wanting to grow his hair long. Think about that. How profound is that? That was a revolution in the 50s and 60s and the 70s when men decided, man, I wonder if I could grow my hair out. What would that be like? And even in my life, being born at the end of the 80s, I had people constantly challenge me when I wanted to grow my long hair out. Like that's something to focus on. Like, is that how secure an old way of living is? Is that you're challenged by long hair, a physical, stylistic decision which bears no import on your actual life other than the way you want to show up or creatively? It's profound. The other thing I was thinking of and dropped in was Timothy Leary, another hero of the counterculture and someone I dearly respect, another mentor. And he talked about how culture won't change until the women do. Think about that. Culture won't change until the women change, because being the choosy sex, right? Masculine energy and men in nature compete to procreate and to create empires and continue their DNA, right, on some level. And women choose and vote, in a sense, for which masculine forces will procreate. So if women change and choose conscious community and choose communication and choose compassion and empowered use of technology and abundance mindset and all the things that we know to be powerful and true in this coming golden age, if women choose that, men by default will choose it, and culture will shift. Culture will shift. It's happening. We're inside of it right now. I'm blessed to have an empowered woman in my life, and I see empowered conscious women in my tribe and my community, and they're at the forefront. Thank you. Thank you, queens. Kings, it's time to step up. I'm calling you up. I want you to call me up. Let's meet them. Let's meet them there. Let's meet them there in that space together. We can meet them there. If you are feeling this message, I invite you to share this video with someone who could gain value from it. Because I really am stepping into my power as a man, and I'm being called up by the universe and social media and this beautiful technology of the internet where we can have this dialogue. Like, this is like a global dialogue that we're gonna have. And it's not gonna stop. It's actually gonna become more intensified. A global dialogue around what men and women need and want in their life and how they show up to create a society that is both sane and progressive, that is focused on evolution, positivity, providing for our children, emotional intelligence, and not tribal politics and deception and misinformation, which may have been a way of the past. So masculinity is evolving, whether you like it or not. It's evolving inside of men, it's evolving inside of women. It's evolving in the way patriarchs show up and care for their families and their businesses, and it's evolving in the way that we show up in communication. So the faster we can evolve our language, the faster we can actually evolve our reality. That's another beautiful concept that Terrence McKenna was very instrumental in me recognizing. You can only occupy a reality that you can describe with language. So this is actually about learning a new language for things that are perhaps more subtle. This is part of the journey I've been on, is noticing subtle sensations, energies, emotions, and thoughts inside my inner world. The same way I've learned to notice my outer world, like the way my muscles feel when I exercise, the way my body feels when I take care of it, the way it feels when I eat certain foods. It's the same way with your thoughts and emotions. And this is what EQ is. You've all heard of IQ. What about EQ? This is part of the masculine re-evolution. EQ, emotional intelligence, the emotional quotient. How aware of your emotional pain body and your feelings are you? And are you able to express them in a healthy way without subconsciously projecting them on your partner and your friends and your employees and your parents? This is a big concept that I'm very excited to explore. So just to recap, the old masculine ego, the old armored ego, its evidence for its inability to evolve is how triggered and fragile it actually is when even the most slight challenge is presented to it. For example, a man growing out his hair. It's profound. Number two, the culture will only evolve as fast as the women and our ability to communicate will evolve. So the women, by putting in the work on themselves and asking men to step up, will encourage men to step up, which will therefore, in our current age, drive culture itself to step up. Because most of the cultural leaders and drivers of technology and politics are men right now. That's something I hope is going to change as well, as the masculine and feminine will start rebalancing on Earth. The other thing is we can only inhabit a reality we can describe. So it's time to level up our communication. And this is what I specialize in, I believe, is I'm a communicator and a mouth for these concepts and ideas. And so if that's something you're interested in, I would invite you to join me on this journey. Thank you for following my content. And if you are interested in an experiential experience, I do work with Mystic Misfit, which is our brand where we lead retreats and workshops training in this language and these kinds of practices of presence and bioenergetics and expression and breath and language. If that's something you're interested in, mysticmisfit.com, kevinoros.com is where you can find out more information and work with us. Masculinity, it's evolving and it's re-evolving. It's already evolved many times before, but revolution and revolutionaries are re-evolutionaries. And this is a beautiful concept and etymology that I'm going to continue to practice and step into. So yeah, like, comment, and share on this video. It's been an honor to serve you and communicate with you. The masculine energy is being called up and out. Up in the fact that it's evolving and increasing its capacity for emotion and intelligence. And it's being called out in that we're outing the old paradigms. The mutants are here. The mutants are not here to protect old patterns that have not served humanity. We're here to create the new ones. And we're inviting you to come with us.